Hey everybody, this is Grace, and I'm going to put on this channel a really short version of an update on the health care situation after all this time, little part of 2023, and my squirrels are going crazy upstairs here. It's just squirrel moment, literally. And anyway, on the house upstairs. But all this stuff, 2023, all of 2024, just a little part of 2023, all of 2024, all of 2025, with the healthcare, just it's totally nuts. And I'm not a dramatic person, but this was a dramatic situation. And basically, I can't even call it this because I'm not dramatic. But I didn't feel like I'd lost my power, but I took back my power. I really hadn't lost it, but they think that I had lost it. They think that this healthcare system, they think that they have all the power, and they erect these, totem poles, and they don't try to put me on the bottom of it. They try to put me under it. That's me. That's my dramatic way of putting it. I'm not a dramatic person, so it probably sounds silly, but my way of doing it, it's a whole long story, is the people who had called me from another county within their system seemed to have been using me, not asking me, but using me, since I have a rare health condition, as some way of finding out if they were doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing up here in this county. And to have and they let me know. They didn't call me. Somebody had called me, and then they said, you need to speak to this other woman. I think that's how it went. And I wasn't asking for it. So they were just calling me to find out this, that, the other. Anyway, trying to make it short. Basically, there was I had something I went to urgent care for. Should have been one and done, was not. They were trying to, the short version would be that the nurse practitioner from my PCP was trying to take something that's supposed to be one and done. Like I said, one visit and done, over with. They were going to try to get all together. For me, it would be possibly 10 appointments. There is absolutely no reason. Okay, and then I wrote very professional. I called their, it's not really called the complaint line, but it's an advocacy group for the patient, and I'd had enough. It wasn't my first time, and they contacted them. The woman refused to do the way that I had said. I would need to know it in through the portal. Everything's supposed to go through the portal. She did that, but she wouldn't put the words, it's medically necessary because it's not medically necessary because of anything. It's that they're doing that thing that the people from the other county was hinting to me about. So actually, I should say she just said it flat out. Okay. So much behind all that. I took my power back eventually on that, kind of in a symbolic way. Delete, uninstall, right off my phone, the portal. I'm not going to have it interrupting my day. I'm a night owl. I sleep more during the day. They would call and wake me up. That's why everything's supposed to go. One of them, reason, go through the portal, so they don't call and wake me up, so they don't interrupt my life. They send it through the portal, so they don't call me and wake me up, and they don't call me and get it all confused of what I'm saying. Call me demanding stuff, like this last one, just a few days ago. A couple days ago, call asking for money. They don't do that. And 3 people I spoke to in that conversation, the last one being the manager, who told me that it says, and she used this voice, says the patient prefers, that voice. I say there's a valley girl, and somewhat of what they think is either British or royalty or whatever. That's not a great example, but yeah, she kept saying that, and it was just so much with that. And then the whole thing with the the nurse who was, I wrote a very professional, direct to the point. I was a career student. Remember, I can do it. And she refused to the nurse. She refused to answer it. I did not acknowledge what she had to say because to me it was not worthy of acknowledging. It was back through the portal. It was not really worthy. You don't put me on a totem pole. You don't place me where you think I belong. I am the patient, and every patient there on top of any totem pole. I don't play totem pole game. I don't need to. So I have no need to go around trying to show that I am superior to all. But this was taking my power back when they were trying to place me. Tell me how things are going to go. Oh, no. No. So, the whole short of the rest of it is, after doing that, so if I want to check to see if they've sent me any messages, anything through the portal, I'll go on my desktop. I had to find out how to do all that in this process. But another one was I switched back to a different doctor that's not a partner in partnership with them. It's in network, but they're in network with a lot of insurance companies. So it's not one of their employees. You see, the other ones were all within that network. I thought that was a good idea. At one point, when I was just learning, no, I'm going right back to this one I've seen a couple of times. Really sweet woman. I cannot say that she's going to be all that great because nobody's perfect. And it could turn out it's just as bad. I've said this before. Oh, I'm going to switch insurance companies and just found out the next one is all that bad. And somebody had told me something, I think it was with the insurance, the whole thing. They said, you do that, you start all over again. They're going to do the same kind of thing. You try to get tests and more procedures and more this and more that. Everything that you do requires 2 visits, really. The initial visit and a follow-up, which the follow-up, they don't do what they're supposed to do. And then it could be another appointment depending on if you do the test there or somewhere else. That's a lot of time out of my life. It was 75 to 80 I counted appointments last year, just 2025, and over half of those, I didn't have it, I could be wrong on the exact number, but over half of those were canceled by the provider, whether it was a doctor or a nurse practitioner, because they had better things to do. Whatever it was, whatever excuse they used, their office called me, said I would have to reschedule because they don't have a button they click that says the provider did it. So I'm the one that looks like I rescheduled it. What a crock of crap. The whole bit was something else. And then that nurse to have the nerve to send me a message through the portal and trying to put herself back on top of that totem pole. It was so obvious. I wrote a very professional. I remember I did work for surgeons when I was a career student as an office manager slash, it just depended on what they needed. Interim office management, surgery scheduling, billing, medical billing was mainly rebilling and collections. I fought the insurance companies and made them pay the patients what they should pay for their portion. I was really good at it too. Really good at it. I don't take crap. It's part of my culture. It really is part of my culture. I grew up in Texas in a place you had to take up for yourself. Anyway, I try to get a softer side to me, so but this was too much, so I took back. Like I said, I don't really feel like I lost it ever. It's that they thought that they had taken it from me. Really, is what it is. They thought that they put me on that totem pole, and I better remember where my position is, where my place is, underneath it. That just the nerve of these, the nerve. They're like, at one point I was thinking of them as when children play house, and have a tea party, and you know what I'm saying. They're faking it. The kids are, they're learning, they're growing. But these are people who never grew out of that stage. But they're playing that tea party, and they're trying to say they are the ones that are most important in the tea party. You know what I'm saying? They're the ones running the show. No, you're not. Period. Full stop. Patient, no matter what patient it is always on top. It's all about the patient. It's not about your ego. So, it's just unbelievable, some of what these people think. They really, it's just quite amazing that they actually think they can do that, and you are going to have to accept it. So they lost my business. I fired them. Really, I fired them. So the same insurance. I'm just going to go to different doctors. And I asked this one, the short version, this very short version. The person I spoke to was a young man. He was really nice. And I said, I want to find out about your protocols and your what this and that and the other. It's a much better system. And then they do referrals themselves. And so they can refer me to somebody outside of that system that doesn't work for them or is in partnership with the insurance company. Yeah, that's kind of common around here, I'm finding out. And so I can, because they're trying to say that I am the problem because I changed doctors. Well, when I find a doctor that's worthy of being my doctor and not wasting my time and not answering questions like, is it medically necessary at this time for me to do this? Refusing to answer, doing the stuff of skirting the issue, doing test after test after test after test, and not explaining any of it because they're going to need more tests. Finding out from their other county section that they're doing something wrong. This kind of stuff over and over. Or the one that came in and walked in the office, where I was sitting waiting, and said, I cannot believe there's nothing wrong with you. My first visit, he said, I'm going to run much more extensive tests and change your medicine. No, you're not, Dudo. I fired him. And as I was leaving, they were I heard them calling other people, other patients, and telling the patients that they had to reschedule because that other doctor was a woman. She decided she was going to have that day off. Of course, I didn't tell the doctor you're fired. I did do that, not to the doctor, but one place I called and they were going to reschedule the second time before I even saw anybody there. And or was it another thing? I said, no, yeah, it was another thing that the doctor, she believed that her staff, they had the nerve to even say it, was that if she found herself a slot at the hospital or wherever, or the center, wherever they were doing procedures, and she had a slot open at that time that I was scheduled 5 months previously to have an appointment, of course she was going to cancel my appointment and stick in her procedure, because that's what she's focusing on. It's called patient abandonment, and it's unethical. It's a no-no, in other words. I told that woman, I said, I know it's not you, don't take this personally, but she's fired. She is not worthy. I don't know if I said she is not worthy, but she's not. I'm saying now, that was not worthy. No, I am not up to whenever they feel like it. And then they'll have the nerve to say things like, when they call and they say that you need to reschedule, okay, and then the appointments are like 5 months, 6 months later, but when they call to reschedule like that and say that you need to reschedule because the doctor's going to take a day off for whatever it is that or the nurse, they'll say, and then we only have appointments any day soon for next Monday or next Tuesday, something like that, and that's when you would have to do it. No. Well, if you don't, then you have to wait 5 or 6 months for the next one. Patient abandonment. Unethical. Yeah. I'm not an expert on that, but that's pretty much it. Yeah. Yeah. You have a patient who has something going wrong and they're going to have to play this game because the doctor wants to make more money. There's all kinds of problems with it, really, from what I've been told over the years. You know, I worked in the medical, remember? Yeah, you got to watch this stuff. You got to watch your mouth, people. Especially the one that just informed me of all this stuff about them doing things that could cause them problems, and it could cause them big time problems. And the ones that finally got it, yeah, one of them actually told me he's an older man. Older than I, can you believe it? And seriously, I thought he was around my age, and Adam said no. And so I looked it up, and yeah, that guy's 12 or so years older than me. And he mumbled to himself on a video visit, and he mumbled to himself, "Mister, I'm sitting right here on the other end of this. I can hear you." And that he was going to try to turn it around on me. You can't turn it around on me. He's going to try to find a way. Well, he changed his tune. Yeah. The nerve of these people. Just the nerve of these. I laugh because the nerve in it's not funny. But they lost my business. They don't care. They do this to so many people, I would imagine. Just so many. 2 visits for one thing. And everything, and then not do what they're supposed to do the second one, the follow-up. Yeah, there's a problem there. Big time problem. Like the woman told me. She didn't call me, the other person called me and then connected me to her. But still, there's a problem. I don't want to be part of your problem. Y'all need to get that worked out yourselves. Stop using people as a pawn in your game. Psycho. Really. Wrapping it up.